stop the rock, can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock. Stop the rock. Stop the rock. Stop the rock, can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, you can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, you can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, you can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, you can't stop.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench. I am one half of the team, Rocco Gary from InLaCrosseWeTrust.com, and with me, as usual, from sunny Toronto, is actually Gary Group. Gary, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I got my sunscreen on. We've gone from minus 33 to plus 50. Weather by Sybil. Here we are. We're going back into the deep freeze tomorrow, so in case you just got your shorts and T-shirts out, put them away. We're coming back. But we're also a little tired here in Toronto, because we went through aerobics last Saturday. We had 24 sets of high fives to do, so we're all a little bit sore and weak this week.
Yeah, that would explain the opening song that was for the Vancouver Stealth. They just couldn't stop the Rock last week, but we'll get into that game. And the two others. But what I first want to bring up, Gary, is one of our friends, Kevin Nybauer, put out an article about the scoring in the NLL. What do you think? Do you think it's bad for the league right now with all these high-scoring games, or is it just showing that some of these teams are really not, I don't want to say not that good, but the talent just not there?
I worry about it becoming a two-tiered league. That's my biggest concern. No, scoring is great for the league because it brings excitement and it brings all kinds of new people watching the game. Everybody loves excitement. But when it's only one-sided and we have these lopsided scores of 16 to 9 and 24 to 10 and 24 to 7 and 20 to 13, then it starts becoming not a nail-biter. Nobody cares after the first half or after the first quarter. The Vancouver game, for example, was 10-0 after one. If anybody thought that there was any chance of Vancouver coming back, even if you were in Vancouver, I don't want to break your thing about the Easter Bunny or Santa either. It's not going to happen. That's the problem I see. Now, of course, if you're the home team and you're up 12-0, other than being a little tired from all the high fives and a little sore, it's a lot of fun. But game after game, I don't see it. Man, we had that with the Mill League. We had these really lopsided scores. But over a number of years, especially over the last, say, 10 years, we've had an awful lot of really come-down-to-the-wire scores. And you'd be lying to me to tell me that you're not on the edge of your seat. Either way, win or lose on a 10-9 game or a 9-7 game. So I like to see good defense as well as good offense. I'd like to see a mix. I don't want every game to be 4-3.
Right.
I don't want every game to be, or at least two-thirds of the games to be 24 to 9. So I think that we're treading some difficult territory, especially because when we expand and things get a little bit thinner, because you have more people going to more teams. I remember when they expanded out to 13 teams in the NLL, even though it was ownership issues, the teams sometimes weren't the greatest because the talent pool wasn't the greatest. Now, I think we have more to pull from now, but do we have enough when we start doing the expansion that Sakevich wants to do? And is it going to water down the product to the point where we're going to see this as the norm, 2 out of 4 games or 2 out of 6 games every weekend?
Right. And the thing that, back in the, you brought out the Mill, and back then, you had teams, you would have 2 teams that would have high-power offenses. Like you could bring up, at the time, the Buffalo Bandits and the Detroit Turbos in 94, and even with the Wings playing then. You had teams there that could put the ball in the net, and at the time, the goalies didn't really wear all that much as compared to now.
Right, no, exactly.
And Yeah,
but things also got very ugly when things got very large. And the league seems to want to get away from fighting. But yet, in the Vancouver shellacking, there were 4 fights in that game, and an awful lot of other things that could have happened, but were stopped because of game misconduct's being hunted.
Yeah,
There's only 2 players on the Vancouver bench.
Yeah, and the funny part is we'll get into that game, but you see who the crew chief was, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All things.
Right. The first week of January, like I said, he would start calling a lot of penalties the first week of January.
Well, these penalties were actually deserved.
Yeah.
These weren't the chintzy make up the penalties like we were watching in years past.
No. But I saw the article and it just kind of, it didn't hit a sore spot. It was good article by Kevin. It just made me remember the mill days of the high scoring and things like that, and it just had me think of, okay, we have 2 more teams coming into the league, and we're seeing this right now. We're seeing Saskatchewan average up until this past week 20 plus goals a game. Rochester was nearing that mark. They were over 15 a game. And you see teams, struggling like Vancouver and Calgary, and now you're bringing in 2 more teams in San Diego and Philadelphia again. And when you talk about the talent pool, I'm looking at the goaltending. You go through the teams. Okay, Matt Vince, Aaron Bold, Evan Kirk. You got 3 top goalies right there. Then you got Dylan Ward over there in Colorado. After that, you basically drop down a good, solid level. You could probably even add Mike Poole into the mix. He goes hot and cold, but he's more on the hot side as of late. But then you drop down a good level after that for your goaltending. You look at Calgary. They don't know who to put in or if they could find a way to put both goalies in at the same time. Alex Bouquet for Buffalo. I mean, he don't know whether to face forward or backwards half the time right now. The opponents have him turning around in every possible direction. Vancouver, they're just a train wreck right now. I'm waiting to see them activate Brad Penny and put him in between the pipes.
That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Right, and I haven't seen anything on the transaction wire as of yet. So, you look at that, and then you think of, we have an expansion draft coming. What goalies, what back, who's going to protect what goalie, and who's not going to be protected. And you look, and okay, if one of San Diego or Philadelphia looks to pick out a goalie, now I'm not saying that Matt Vince isn't going to be protected. We know he's going to be protected, but the backup is Agnes Goodleaf. Okay, he won't be a bad choice, but he hasn't had a lot of playing time as of late. Okay, on Saskatchewan, Tyler Carlson, I don't think he's going to get picked up by anybody. There's a limited selection there. So where do those teams go at that point? And that's what you have to question when you have all this high scoring that's going on. And there's been talk, in the article I think Kevin mentioned about maybe they should go away from the 4x9 and go to the way I believe the MSL is 4x4. Mm-hmm. Do it that way. Maybe that might cut down some of these high scoring games. What do you think about that? Do you think that should happen, or keep it?
I don't think so. I think it's 2 separate leagues with 2 separate rules and goals. There's something you notice in the summertime is these guys are so used to firing at those 4x9 nets that a lot of the shots that are whizzing just over the corners are goals in the NLL. Right,
but yet you still have some high scoring games in the MSL too.
Sure.
and they're hitting 4x4s. So
these professionals, they can hit toothpicks in the corner if they really want to.
Yeah. I mean, it amazes me how they kind of do it. I mean, when I see that happen, it kind of reminds me of the 1 year before the Philadelphia Wings moved. They had where the fans, you had a choice. Like, season ticket holders had a choice of what you could do. And I was in one of the team pictures, and we had that, handed to us before the team had their regular picture taken. But one of our good friends, Tom Hoffman, he was joking around, standing in the net saying, "Oh, look how much room I take up." And Drew Westervelt had his stick, grabbed the ball, and just told Tom, "Just stay still." Drew just threw a shot. He didn't fire one, but it was fast enough where if it would have hit your shoulder, it would hurt. Mm-hmm. He just put it right over his shoulder without even touching any bit of his clothing, and there wasn't that much room. And I just kind of stood there in awe, meanwhile Tom's standing there shaking a bit, seeing this ball come at him and just go right over his shoulder into the top corner. So you see that, and it's just amazing what they can do. And like I said, with the high scoring going on now, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. But I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see. And like you said, we don't want it to be a 2-tier league or even a 2 or 3 team league, because we could easily say that this is you're looking at Saskatchewan, Rochester right now, and Toronto's starting to come back around along with New England. So there's going to be a lot to happen out there.
Yeah, so I don't see it being a big issue, but I think teams need to start getting their defense more in order.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it has to do with complete open shooting lanes. We will be discussing that also.
Yeah, and then that's what we'll get into. So now, first game we had on the schedule, we had Saskatchewan playing Georgia, a rematch of last year's Champions Cup. We all know how that...
It took us, I think, both by surprise, because we expected this juggernaut of a game and high-flying action and all the scoring between the two teams.
And we had one goal
in the first quarter.
One goal in the first quarter, and it was the goalies that were stealing the show. Both Evan Kirk and Mike Poulin were just phenomenal in that first quarter. Just stopping, just shot upon shot. I mean, it was just to be believed. And none of it was on the power play. The first penalty didn't come to almost 4 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah, in which Georgia actually had a shorthanded goal during it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just an unbelievable, start to the game. Yeah, Robert Church puts it in. I mean, it didn't take 2 minutes. It took almost 6.5 minutes before a goal was scored in the first quarter, and that was the only goal scored. It was a beautiful pass from Keenan to Church. Mm-hmm. Poulin had no chance on it whatsoever.
Well, the bigger story in this one, I think, really is, I know Georgia lost, but this is the first time we actually saw life in Georgia this year. With all the changes and all the moves, they've looked pretty anemic through most of their games. And in this game, they really didn't look anemic. If anything, they looked up and coming.
Yeah.
So I think the ship is riding in the correct direction. Again, they went against a juggernaut of a team that has everything firing on all cylinders and held them to just 13 goals.
But then they struggled themselves by only scoring 9.
Yeah, in which they went against, in my opinion, the league's best defense, best transition, and best goaltending up to this point. Yeah,
and their problem was in the third quarter. In Coach Kumo's press conference, he said that they let up 6 goals in the third. 4 of them were on transition.
Sure, and then it was the last 4 minutes of the quarter that they fell apart.
Yeah.
So.
And by that point, you're down 11-5.
That 4-minute span out of the game, you have a tie game.
Yeah. Because at that point, Saskatchewan goes up 11-5, and you're talking about trying to outscore the best defense 6-0 just to earn a tie at that point.
But you know what? Give credit to them, because they won the fourth quarter 4-2.
4-2, yeah.
They didn't fold up their tent. They came back with 2 goals. They gave up 2. Mm-hmm. And then they came back with 2 more at the very end with an extra attacker. But they didn't fold up.
No.
I'm enthused about what I'm seeing from Georgia probably for the first time this year. Now, I didn't pick them to win, nor did you.
No.
And they didn't disappoint. But they gave them a much bigger fight than I thought. And for more of the game than I thought. You know, you have the usual suspects, right? You know, getting goals. You know, you had Shane Jackson, who had a good game for Georgia. Zed Williams, I mentioned him last week that he needed more. Well, he got 2 goals. Jesse King had 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Where they fall short is, you know, Miles Thompson, nothing. No goals, no assists. Lyle Thompson, a goal and 3 assists. And we know this from last year. Georgia goes as the Thompsons go. And if they're not going anywhere, neither is this team.
No.
You know, Matisse had three assists. Randy Stott's a goal and 2 assists. So nobody was overwhelming. I say the only one who really had a game was Shane Jackson.
Yeah, he had a hat trick.
You know, Robert Church was 3 and 3. Jeff Schaller was 3 goals and assists. So he's fitting in very nicely, isn't he?
Gee, Jeff Schaller, think about that.
Yeah, you're wondering if he's going to fit into this offense. Well, I think after 4 games I can say yes.
Well, I'm looking at his stats right now, okay? After 3 games. Well, no, wait a minute. They played... Yeah, he only played in 3 games, I believe, so far.
Yeah, they only played 3 games. They had to buy.
Yeah, he has 6 goals, 9 assists in 3 games, okay? He's on a pace right now for 36 goals, 54 assists, and 90 points. That would top his stats from 2016 with Calgary when he had 30 goals. His career high is 35 goals back in 2014. He's on his way to breaking that with no problem right now.
And now we talked about Saskatchewan and how balanced an attack they have, both offensively and transitionally. And we had 9 different scorers in this game out of 13 goals. That's pretty balanced. And considering that almost half of them came from transition, that's frightening.
Frightening, yeah, exactly.
No, that's downright frightening.
Yeah, I mean, Mitski had a goal, Cornwall with a goal, Dinsdale, I mean...
Yeah, Jeremy Thompson had his 1 goal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
As well as going 12 for 20 on the faceoffs.
I mean, you look at the stats. Robert Church had 3, Jeff Schaller with 3. Yeah, and you mentioned that. But you're looking at McIntosh with only 1, Mark Matthews with only 1. Yeah, sure, they held them 2 in check, but they kind of forgot.
He was very quiet because he only had 2 assists also. So
yeah,
you know where he had 8 shots on goal though.
Right, and they held.
He wasn't trying to do anything.
No, they held him in check.
He did have 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
So you know where he's shy on one side, he's helping out in the other one, and our not so gentle giant is still stomping and walking and talking and doing whatever he wants to do. To quote Angela Mosca.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, if you stop Matthews and McIntosh, you still got to look at Church, Schattler. They still have other people out there. And it's scary. And like you said, the way the Thompsons go, it seems like that's the way the Swarm go. And,
Yeah, if they blow the roof off of things, and then Georgia's going to go crazy. If they're not, they're going to be very, very meek.
Yeah,
and that's what we've gotten this year so far. We've had a very average, helmet sophomore jinx from the Thompsons.
Yeah.
And Georgia's going that way. They're 1 and 3.
1 and 3, and it's scary because when you look at it, Lyle Thompson, 1 goal, 3 assists, 12 shots, 5 turnovers, but 9 loose balls. Miles Thompson, no goals, no assists. Only 2 shots. One
was the penalty. He was pretty much invisible all game.
Yeah, 1 turnover and 0 loose balls. I mean, he had a penalty in the beginning of the game for an illegal body check, but then after that, there was nothing.
He was as a church mouse.
Yeah, I don't know if he was hurt.
No, Jerome.
But nothing.
Jerome was also pretty silent.
Yeah.
With no goals, no assists, no nothing, no penalty minutes,
Nothing.
1 shot. That's it.
Yeah, and teams are finding out they can keep them quiet.
But I think a lot of that has to do also, we've said it before, the Saskatchewan defense is incredible.
Incredible, yeah.
And it's not a new one. It's not a young one. It's not an old one. It's just a veteran one. And it knows how to win. And because of last year's final, it's more pissed off than ever.
Yeah.
So they're, the only thing that's going to stifle them is that they have no competition really, and they might not be able to stay sharp and actually, get beat.
Right.
But other than that, man, this team is just, this is the blueprint of how you want a team.
Yeah. And they had, it was announced 3,700.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, only if the person counting was drinking a lot and seeing triple.
Yeah, and if they counted the workers there.
If there was 1,000 there, I would be shocked beyond belief because every picture that I saw nothing but nice blue empty seats all over the place.
Yeah. So unless they were out on the concourse or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, there were a lot of
concourse.
A lot of blue.
Now you also had the Atlanta football team playing, yeah.
Yeah, but they were on the road. They were out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They were nowhere near.
They were playing. I'm trying to get them out here. Give me a break.
Yeah.
They're playing. People are at home watching them on TV.
Okay.
People at the local pub down the street watching them on TV.
Okay, their next home game, we'll see what happens.
They had this game on their phone on NOL TV.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sticking with.
Okay. Okay. If you believe that, you'll have a palm tree in your backyard tomorrow.
Well, if it keeps up like this, maybe I will, with a little bit of frost coming off of it.
Okay, so we have, Saskatchewan winning 13-9. They win 16 out of 26 face-offs. Loose ball battle went to Georgia only by 2. Shots on goal 54-50 in favor of Saskatchewan. Power play, again, Saskatchewan was deadly on that. 3 for 4. While also, let me see, they picked up a shorty. And
they also gave up a shorty.
Yeah, they gave up one as Georgia went 1 for 2 on the power play with a shorthanded goal as well. But again, Saskatchewan comes out on top, moves to 3-0 as one of the 2 undefeated teams that are left. The other one being the Colorado Mammoth, who did not play last week, and the Georgia Swarm drop to 1-3, which is starting to get into troubled waters right now. Now, next game we had Buffalo hosting Calgary. We talked about this game that one of these teams is going to come out. And
I now give up on Calgary.
Yeah.
I tried, man. But I give up on it. I really, every time I think that they would have a way to get this offense moving, they proved me wrong, and they did it again this past weekend. Because I said Curtis Dixon was going to have a big game, and he did. I said Dane Dobie was going to awaken, and he did with 2 goals and an assist. But where in the heck was anybody else? There was nobody. Wes Berg, 2 assists. Mitch Wild, 1 assist. Zach Currier, hey, bonus, an assist. Riley Lowen, an assist. Tyson Bell, an assist. He's not even getting penalty minutes. 2 penalty minutes.
2 penalty, yeah.
Where are you? Where are you? Dan McRae and Garrett McIntosh with a goal each. You're not going to beat anybody like this.
No. And
Chad Cummings with 2 assists. You're not going to beat anybody like this. No. There's offensive power on this team.
Yep.
Where? I don't know.
Yep. I mean,
now, did we? I know we put Jeff Shatler in high esteem, but did we not think enough of him?
I don't think they did.
He has that much to do in the past with Calgary's offense.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it.
Because it looks like all the offense went to Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Because they've been able to do, with the exception of one game where they looked like they were going to come out of this, they've done nothing. And, people say, hey, you're being a little bit hard. No, they've done nothing.
They've done nothing, no. Because, I mean, you look at their shots. Dixon and Dobie had 25 shots. They only had 52 for the game.
Yeah, and you know what? And we talked about the Buffalo defense not being a very strong thing. We've talked about Alex Bouquet not being very, very sharp lately.
He looked very sharp.
He looked very sharp, and, he had lots of shots.
Yeah.
Oh, You know, even loose balls, they 89 to 81 in favor of Calgary, so you're getting chances.
Yeah.
Won 19 of 26 faceoffs for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You had the ball. What are you doing? And every opportunity I saw, they looked lost.
Yeah. Well,
they looked lost in the offensive zone, and when they actually had a clue, Buffalo had an answer. Buffalo did their homework on the few things that they were going to try.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, has Miloski, worn out his welcome there? Are they just not paying any attention to him? Is it just old systems rehashing? Do they need a change of pace there too?
They may, yeah.
Because we talked about it. Calgary did the most and looked the most promising out of the draft. And then they cut people who we thought would be for sure surefire people on their team. So who's making these decisions to keep these guys not doing anything?
Yeah.
And why do I not see the waiver wire have all kinds of moves to try and do things when this is stand pat stuff and nobody's doing anything?
Yeah, I mean, the team's not scoring goals, but yet, players that they drafted, they released.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
exactly. Now again, we had the back and forth with the goalies. Now they left Sciglione in there for most of the game,
right?
And then finally, mercifully, the last 5 minutes they put Del Bianco in there.
Faced one shot, let up a goal.
It would have been quicker to the bench, right, for the 5-goal lead.
Exactly.
Yeah, but really, I can't put this loss on Scigliano. You lay in 12 out of 50, but really, he was hung out to dry half the time.
He had no offense.
None, and they didn't look too interested.
No.
That's the really, discouraging thing that I see. They didn't look all that interested that they were behind. It was only, it was 7-4 at the half. Very, very attainable. Especially the way the Buffaloes, had very lapsed moments enough to give up 3 goals in a couple of minutes. And, Calgary, they came out, in the third with Dixon getting a goal 25 seconds in, and then they went back to sleep.
Yeah.
And the next time that they scored was Dixon with 1 second left in that quarter. Well, that doesn't seem like they're pushing it to the brink to try and get back into this game.
Well, if you look at that, you're talking about Dixon scoring the first goal of the third quarter, the last goal of the third quarter. Then he scored their first goal of the fourth quarter. I mean, so he scored 3 of those goals. He scored goals 5, 6, and 7.
Yep. But then in between all that, you had Calen Crawford just increasing things with 2.
Oh yeah, and he's fitting in beautifully with Buffalo.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what Benesh did there. So I don't think anybody's lost anything in there. If anything, both teams won in this ordeal.
Yeah.
Because Dane Smith isn't looking like he's missing Benesh because he's got Calen Crawford fitting in real nice. They also rejuvenated Mark Steenhouse a little bit. Now, like I said, what I saw a week ago, he's noticeably a couple of steps slower than he was. But his hands are still his hands, and his lacrosse smarts are still his lacrosse smarts. And he may not be the juggernaut transition goal scorer that he was, but he sure as heck can be the quarterback.
Yeah.
And he sure as heck can take a heck of a shot here and there and keep teams off balance. So he still can be a vital part of this offense, just not as much as before. But Buffalo looked like they looked like they did in week 1. And an interesting stat is Buffalo only wins at home now.
Yeah.
As soon as they go on the road, they're lost.
They're lost.
They don't know the map. But at home, they know the lay of the land beautifully. And in Bandit Land, they've made it a very difficult place to play again.
And if they could just mix in a few road wins, they might.
They're in the mix for looking at a playoff spot.
Yeah. Because you look at it: Crawford 4-1, Dane Smith 2-3, Durston 3-2.
Durston had a great game all around.
Yeah, and Kevin Brownell
was in on everything,
goals.
and he was also back checking. He was everywhere.
Yeah,
like he really had the game that welcome to Buffalo.
Yeah, so a hell of a game there. And the thing is, they only won 7 out of the 26 faceoffs. So that like throws the theory out. Oh, if you win the face-off, you get more chances, and you should be able to win the game. They only won 7 of the 26.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they won 12 of 26. Only 7. Yeah, that's like less than 30% of the face-off draws. So. So that kind of throws that, theory kind of out the window big time.
Now, out of this game, I don't know if it was in the game or in practice or whatever, but Ryan Wagner and Chase Fraser are listed as questionable for Saturday's game. And DeRuccio's original 2 to 4 week timeline appears now to be more like a 4 to 6 week timeline.
Ooh.
This coming out of Bandits Mafia on Facebook. So, I guess that they have Vancouver this week. If there's any time that they have guys out, this would be the week.
Yeah. And I will say, who knows, maybe you get to see Zach Higgins in the game, but...
Well, the way Bouquet played, I don't think you're going to need him, but he is there.
Yeah.
We watched him play in Toronto when Bouquet didn't play so well.
Yeah, so who knows?
But, just to give Higgins a little bit more incentive and to be ready for the game.
Yeah, he might get some playing time, but I see them starting Bouquet, and then they'll go from there.
I don't think Buffalo's going to change anything other than what Chase Fraser and Ryan Wagner were doing. So.
No. And in Buffalo they had just under 12,000 people, 11,803.
It's a good crowd, but
up,
still, Man at Land, I'm used to seeing 14, 15.
Yeah.
So. Let's
give
see.
time. It's only for
January.
Yeah.
We're coming to the middle of the month.
Yeah.
All the season stuff's back. Kids are back at school. People are back from vacation.
Yeah, the Bills are out of the playoffs, so
happens now. And also, the weather hasn't been cooperating so well.
No.
We'll see this weekend because they're supposed to get hammered.
Yeah, and
the Rochester ways.
Yeah,
with the snowstorm. So we'll see if the Bandits fans have come with their shovels.
Yeah. Let's not forget the Bills are out of the playoffs now. So.
The who?
Buffalo Bills.
Oh yes, that juggernaut scoring. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. So Buffalo wins this 13-8. As I said, they lost the face-off battle 19-7. Shots on goal were fairly even, 52-51 in favor of Calgary. There weren't a whole lot of penalties. Calgary was 2 for 4. On the power play, Buffalo was 1 for 2 with also a shorthanded goal. So not too bad there. But yeah, it looks like Buffalo might be starting to turn the corner, and with their game this week, they may well turn the corner.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us to our next game.
Our next game. This is what prompted me to play the song that I did. Toronto's
early and often is what we can say about this game.
Yeah, let me just, I'll say this and I'll let you take it. Toronto scored a touchdown and a field goal in the first quarter. Then before the half, they scored another touchdown. While the Vancouver Stealth got the 1-point CFL style.
Yeah, it was a mercy point for sure. And then in garbage time, they got the rest of their points. So
I mean, I don't know what the heck happened on this, because you look at the numbers, other than the scoring, okay, and we'll get into that real quick. Shots on goal, 79-44, Toronto. Loose balls, 78-48. Face-offs, 22-13. I mean, it just. Yeah, power play 5 for 7, and Vancouver goes 2 for 4.
Now, also remember that Toronto had a penalty shot and they were unsuccessful.
Yeah.
So literally anything and everything happened in this game.
I mean,
unfortunately, it happened all for Toronto, for Vancouver fans, and the only thing positive for Toronto, that the Toronto fans could say is it wasn't here. Because, man, we would have been awful tired jumping up that many times.
I mean,
but yeah, all of a sudden, for all those people that were worried about the Toronto Rock offense after Game 2, only having 18 goals in 2 games, 44 goals in the last 2 games, I believe has erased that worry.
Yeah.
Taking a look at scoring, it came from everywhere. Now, when things get out of hand when we were playing, they would have us, if you were shooting right, they would have you only shoot left. If you were playing offense, you were now playing defense, and defense playing offense. Well, Toronto did that in one stage because they had Billy Hostrauser play an offensive shift, and what happened? We scored.
Scored.
So, and then he had a fight not long after with Suter, so if that was an insult to injury. Now, a couple of things here. Number one...
Yeah, but wait. Gary, hold it. Wait a minute.
With 17 goals in the first half. The old record was by the old Montreal Express of 16. They weren't able to get the record for the one quarter. That was 12, and they only got 10. Gosh.
Yeah, but
and the final score of a 24 didn't quite match up to the 32 that again was set by Montreal in that same game. Ironically, the assistant coach in his very first game in the league happened to be Matt Sawyer, the Toronto Rock head coach now, with Terry Sanderson as the head coach at that point.
Yeah. But wait a
lot of similarities in there. Now, we also got a chance to see Riley Hutchcraft in the fourth quarter because at that stage it was out of hand and there was no pressure on the kid to come play.
No.
And except for letting in a goal in the first shot, he looked very, very comfortable and made some pretty good saves along the way.
Now, Gary, wait, I want to jump in here. You mentioned about Billy Hostrauser scoring a goal, right? And then getting into a fight not too long after that. But the kicker to the whole thing is he didn't get the game misconduct. Suter did.
Yeah, that's because they were instigators. The two fights that happened at the same time.
Yeah.
Both stealth guys jumped the Rock guys, and that's what happened there. The Brody Merrill fight earlier, they both got game misconduct because there was a 5-minute major, and I believe that they tried to head it off at the pass, but that didn't happen anyways.
No, but it's just funny. You see him score a goal, get into a fight. He's still in the game, and Suter gets shown the door.
Well, they wound up with 3 game misconducts altogether.
Yeah.
Vancouver did. So that was just a little more insult to injury because they had nobody left to play.
No.
So it's one thing you're getting beaten and your goalies weren't stopping anything. Both having a bad night on the same night, that's deadly. But then you have no players left because you're getting game misconduct, so that doesn't help it either.
Actually, they had...
for as long as I can remember, I don't remember 3 Rock players getting 10-plus points.
They had 4 game misconducts, actually.
Yeah.
That's just...
So, Kieran McArdle missed his club by 1 point. He had 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. Rob Hillier had 3 goals, 9 assists for 12 points. Adam Jones, welcome, 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points. And Captain America with 5 goals and 6 assists for 11 points. Now, when you see someone like Brett Hickey getting 2 goals, 3 assists, you're going, hey, that's a pretty good game. He's down on the list there, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's the one who missed the penalty shot, so, oh well. Reed Reinhold, nice to see him up in arms there with a goal and 2 assists. Billy Hostrauser, we talked about. Sheldon Burns, another transition goal. This was a beautiful goal. He came out of the corner, jumped across the crease, and put it in.
Yeah.
Beautiful goal.
When you get up 17, what was it, 11-0 before Vancouver finally scored, you start seeing some interesting things, almost like an all-star competition. Trick shots and things like that going on.
Well, yeah. Well, when Jake Elliott turns to Brad Challenger and says, this is a tough game to call.
Yes.
And an even tougher game to watch.
Yeah.
You know that this is absolute disarray. And it's funny because this is probably the best crowd that Vancouver put in there at 4,200.
Yep.
And they actually were in their seats for a good chunk of the game before they went to the upper ring to where all the craft beer is, because at this stage you needed all the craft beer you could find.
Well, I think they were just in shock, and they couldn't move when they saw what was going on.
Well, Bev Moselle, she was the scorekeeper, and she went through 6 pencils, I believe.
She went through just as many pencils as Vancouver scored goals.
Oh yeah, just about. Yeah, they really to say that they were never in the game, that's probably an understatement and a half. But what I really like to see was, the last game they brought out Dan Craig, who a Penn State guy who is a Canadian boy who went undrafted, and he looked to be doing other things, and all of a sudden was resurrected here. And he had a great week last week in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And this week, another decent week with 3 goals and 2 assists. So, yeah, you got to look. Things are coming together for Toronto, and that makes the rest of the division go, whoa, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're looking at like the Rock that I thought we were going to see right from the start. But like Matt Sawyer had said after the game, it takes a little time to get this thing to gel, and now we're starting to get ourselves in a pretty good spot. So, be interesting what they see this week. They have a tougher opponent. You got Matt Vince and the Rochester Nighthawks coming here, and if they can, luckily they don't have to fly here, so they can actually make it.
Yeah.
And it'll be a tougher experience, and we're going to see where this really comes about. But yeah, Matt Sawyer, what he was saying was, we think we're going to have a strong offense, and it takes time to get going. Everybody was feeling the pressure a bit. We only scored 9 goals each of the first 2 games, but confidence is a powerful thing, and it takes some time to build some chemistry. We made some lineup changes, and this is a big thing. We inserted Dan Craig and Kerry McArdle and switched from a strong right side to a strong left side. And so the results look pretty good. There's the key right there.
Right.
They had a strong left side we talked about even before the draft. Now they've actually played towards it. So teams are going to have to adjust. If they adjust, then they have to move back to doing a strong right side. But as long as they can keep teams off balance, and again, transitionally, they never really let up. In the fourth, they let up. But really, they didn't let up, so they never let Vancouver ever get back into this thing.
No. No, they didn't. How can they? That's.
Well, yeah, that would have been that would have been colossal.
There was
absolutely colossal if they were able to collapse on that.
Yeah, there was just no way they can. Come back from that. The only thing you really can do is try to do something to get prepared for.
Well, it's basically regroup. If it was Vancouver, it's like, shake this one off. Whether you lose by a goal or you lose by 22 doesn't really matter. A loss is a loss is a loss. So just shake it off and move forward.
Shake it off, bury it, do something. Now, this week.
But just a thing about Dan Craig, 6th round draft pick. That's pretty amazing for what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, you always find that diamond in the rough, just like the, you mentioned a 6th round draft pick. First name that pops into my mind is Tom Brady.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I thought, I don't want to get all the people in Philadelphia pissed off at me again.
No, but it's the truth. Yeah, you mentioned that. He was picked, 199th overall? What was it, the last pick or the last pick of the 6th round? I mean, come on.
The thing about him was actually when he came in, he was the 3rd stringer.
Yeah.
There was a 2nd stringer who happened to be unavailable because he was playing for the Toronto Argonauts. He was the quarterback at the time, Michael Bishop, and he was number 2 on the depth chart.
Yep.
But because he wasn't there and Bledsoe went down, Tom Brady came in. And seized the moment, seized the opportunity. 18 years later and 5 Super Bowls later.
Yeah.
And astronomical records all the way through.
All the way through, yeah.
And there we are.
Yeah, you never know. You always find that, that one, diamond in the rough, that needle in the haystack. So, Craig is going to make the best of it. He earned his spot in the lineup. He's going to do everything that he can to stay there. Now, this week we have 5 games. I'm going to knock 2 of them right off to start. Vancouver's at Buffalo. I don't think we really need to preview this game. Vancouver hasn't shown anything. Last week was proof of it. I see Buffalo all over this and turning the corner and moving up to 3-2.
I'm with you on this one. I think Buffalo just continues since they are on the upswing. They seem to be having everything work their way now.
Yeah.
Offensively, they're doing fine. Defensively, they're not looking too bad. And with the stealth in such disarray,
yeah.
Yeah, this could be another embarrassing event for the stealth.
The only thing that would help them right now, I think, is if we see Brad Penny get activated and he's between the pipes.
And again, I watched the coaches try and fight the Rock coaches.
Yeah, saw that too. That was.
Yeah, that was just after the Creed fight, which was after his second headshot.
Yeah.
If anybody's keeping track. But I've mentioned it before. I'm not a fan of Batley. I really am not.
No.
And I don't think he's done anything to sway me in his coaching to do anything different than that. So I don't know. Start at the top and work your way down.
Yeah,
Maybe even get a GM as opposed to just your president being your GM. Maybe Doug Locker should actually hire somebody in there.
Yeah, maybe.
And then start cleaning from the top, go on down. There's some issues here, and they need to be addressed quickly before this gets completely out of hand and you lose the few thousand fans who are making it out game after game.
Yeah, and I got a funny feeling that the third playoff spot may be clinched real quickly too. The other
They're
game,
already up on 4, huh?
Yeah.
As long as the other teams actually keep winning every now and again.
Yeah.
Even Calgary, every now and again, if they put a win up, as meager as they're playing, I guess the wins that they can get are against Vancouver.
Yeah. And the other game that I'm going to knock off right away is Georgia at Calgary. Granted, Calgary's playing at home, but if last week was any evidence of how they're playing lately, and Georgia, even though they lost last week, they still showed something. They still showed something in that game, a lot more than what Calgary has shown. So I think...
Yeah, I agree with you also. Now, all the pundits on Lax Philly who put their picks in this week as well, because there's a whole list up there as of today for this weekend's games on Lax Philly, if anybody's interested in seeing how we spew this out. The thing that I have with Georgia is, both teams are struggling or have been struggling. This game was a sign that things are moving in the correct direction. When you have that much talent, when you have 3 Thompsons, Matisse, Jackson, King, etc., there's no way you're going to continue to lose at a rapid clip. That's just not going to happen. Calgary's had all kinds of trouble with consistency. They've had 0 scoring. Their defense is wishy-washy. Their goaltending has been average at best. And you're going to go against a team that actually has some confidence from the loss they took? Yeah, I don't think that Georgia's going to lose this one.
No.
If anything, you might see a bit of the old Georgia team, and we might watch the Harlem Globetrotters of Thompson's.
Thompson's right. Yeah.
So I pick Georgia to win in a walk.
Georgia in this one, okay. Now we have the first game of the week starts tomorrow night. The Rochester Nighthawks travel across Interstate 90 and crossing the border, and they're going to face the Toronto Rock. Rochester's coming off that game where 2 weeks ago, with the flight problems and everything else, they had a week off. Now they're going into the ACC, and they got to play up against a team that has scored, as you said, 44 goals in the last 2 games. I honestly, these 2 games for Rochester this week that they have, I don't know where to go with them. I really don't, because I don't know what team we really saw 2 weeks ago when they played Georgia, when they had the travel problems. That wasn't the Nighthawk team. And they're
I agree.
It's...
But I think Georgia or Rochester's in for an awful long weekend. Number one, the weather's not going to cooperate with them again. Number 2, Toronto's on an upswing. So, I know it's a bit of a homer point of view, but the offense is firing on all cylinders.
No,
transitions
they
been
are
great. Defense has been steady. Rochester, their scoring has been great. Now they have to play against a defense that's pretty good. got to, solve the Matt Vince thing, but that isn't a new thing. And Toronto's had answers for Vince in the past. The big thing that's always stopped Toronto with Rochester has been their defense. Now, if Toronto can give them different looks and use transition to keep them off balance, I think that counteracts it a little bit. So I'm looking for Toronto to continue their winning ways, because I think, like Matt Sawyer said in his interview, the confidence point, I think, is a big thing. They were sorely lacking it in the first two games. And, they couldn't do anything wrong in the last two. Even when they tried to do something wrong, they couldn't do anything wrong.
Right.
So, as long as they're wary of who's there, of course I'm talking about, having Dawson, who's playing probably the best year he's had in a number of years, as well as some of the other scorers, it's going to be interesting to see Brad Cree against Withers on faceoffs. And I think this is the first time that Withers is going to meet up with a formidable opponent for faceoffs.
Yeah, it will be.
So I'm curious on a number of off the cuff kind of statistics that maybe the average fan isn't going to be interested in.
Well, Withers is going to have. This weekend he's going to go up against two of the top guys in the faceoffs.
Yeah, well.
So, but yeah,
one after the other, because you got Thornberry the next night, right?
Right. Now, I think I'm going to lean with you in this one and take Toronto over Rochester in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason. They're at the ACC. They have problems there. Toronto's clicking on all cylinders. And the thing that has me is I just don't know what Rochester team I saw 2 weeks ago because of the travel problem. Yes, they are rested, but basically so is Toronto after last week.
Well, Toronto really didn't have to do all that much after they got the birth, and they didn't mind doing the track meet stuff.
No.
Anyways, they came back the very next day, so jet lag isn't anything to keep them down.
No. So
they've all been very comfortable here, so weather hasn't been an issue. None of the things that have bothered Rochester have bothered Toronto.
Right.
Now, again, you still have the Joe Resiteras, the Dan Dawsons, the Cody Jamesons, the Corey Vittorellis, and any one of them or all of them can explode at any given time.
Right.
But this time around, you actually have a defense, and you have a defensive-minded coach, and with Bruce Codd also, that I'm sure that there's a number of different strategies in play for what they're going to do. Now, Brandon Miller is still on the IR, and I got to thinking, where would this have happened? Now, the Buffalo game 2 weeks ago, I happened to be in the tunnel. I had just gotten there. I happened to be in the tunnel where the players are coming on and off, and Brandon Miller, with 10 minutes left in the practice time, came by me like a shot. And a few minutes later, he returned back to the floor. But at that point, both the trainer and Jamie Dawick were in the tunnel, asking him if he's okay. And, are you okay? Are you okay? And Miller said, yeah. But the rest of the game, yeah, he was on the bench, but he wasn't the usual Miller cheerleader on the bench. He was more slumped over. And so I think either one of two things. Either he pulled something in his back out there, or it was a shot, or both.
Mm.
And that's where I think our day-to-day upper body injury has come from.
Yeah.
It really didn't dawn on me until I was having lunch with Dan Ballier from the Brampton Excelsiors on Monday, and we were talking about that, and it come to me just as I was talking to him about it. So there's where we stand on that one.
Yeah, that's very possible. Now, the second game of the week is New England will go to Rochester. So Rochester has 2 games this weekend. One on the road.
That's smart. They're already in Rochester because they want to get in there ahead of the storm.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think New England is in there yet. They may want to be changing their flights to get in there early.
Because I think it's hitting Boston too, is it not?
Yeah, but a lot of these guys won't be leaving from...
Yeah, well, it's hitting the whole seaboard, right? So whoever's coming from the east has got to be a little bit weary about this.
Yeah, and it all depends on where some of these players are coming from. Like, you look at Kevin Crowley, Brett Manny.
Yeah, they're coming from the east. They're coming right into this thing.
But yeah, they're coming from.
So he's going to drive right into this thing.
Well, they're either going to drop. Well, they're coming from Philly, so they're going to be. If they're flying out of Philly, they still got to go into.
Sean Evans is going to be driving right into this thing. So.
Right. Yeah. Some guys, depending on where they're coming from, the guys who are flying in are the ones you really have to somewhat worry about because the airport could close down.
Well, they should be thinking about heading there tomorrow.
Well,
this evening and watching the game via NLL TV in the hotel.
Right. Well, they usually do. They usually are in on a Friday night. But here's the thing. Just from my past history of being in Rochester when New England gets in, they usually start getting in somewhere near dinner time.
That's when this thing is starting there.
Exactly. So they may, that's what I'm saying, they may want to try to find a way, hopefully, that they get in there, say, mid-afternoon while it's, raining. Or
that's my point. Because don't forget, Rochester's got to leave Toronto and go through this too. And if it's coming over Friday night into Saturday, or if it's continuing through it, they're going to be driving right into it also, right from the ACC.
Right, either that or they might want to wait till Saturday morning to...
A better idea and just go straight morning right to the arena.
Right, because they're expecting a foot starting Friday night, and then it would stop during the night on Friday night. It would stop like in the early morning on Saturday, like around 5 o'clock in the morning. So maybe it might be better for them just to stay in Toronto, take, what is it, hour and a half, 2 hour bus ride? From
Toronto to Rochester, 3 hours.
3 hours, okay. Take a 3 hour bus ride at like, say 10 o'clock in the morning. You get in for 2. You have plenty of time. You do that. No sense trying to drive in that, in that mess.
No, and let them actually clear some of the roads so that, it's just safety.
Yeah, big time safety. But in this game here, I'm going with the Nighthawks. Only because even though New England will be rested, they're getting in. Since they moved to New England from Philly, and even when they were in Philly, this team has had problems winning at Connor and Ferris Blue Cross Arena. Since they moved to New England, they are a 1-4 team when they go to Rochester. Their record when they were Philly was terrible as well. But they're 1-4 since they went to New England. Whenever they come to Rochester, and the closest game they had was only by 2 goals. Other than that, it's been 4 or more that they've lost by. So I don't think that even though Rochester's playing the night before, I see them splitting this weekend, winning losing in Toronto, and then coming back home and winning that game, because that game is going to be of utter importance to them, because they lose that game, they'll drop to 2-3, and we're already putting Georgia in as a win over Calgary. Georgia will be tied with Rochester at that point. Mm-hmm. Buffalo will jump over them, and New England would move to 3-1 also. So you'd have New England and Buffalo going 1-2 in the division. But that's not why I'm thinking they're going to win. I just New England's history of playing in Rochester is not good at all. Is not good, regardless if Rochester is playing back to back.
Myself, just because you're talking about a rested Wolves team and a very, very tired defense of Rochester. You have a Bold versus Vince show, so they cancel each other out. Yeah, I would expect that you're going to have Sean Evans, Kevin Crowley, and Stephon LeBlanc to have breakout games. I think that travel is going to be a big issue also for Rochester, especially with everything that's going to be going on. They haven't had any luck so far, and I don't expect it to change just yet. But the biggest thing is that they're going to have a hard-fought game in Toronto. And without that much of a turnaround, they're going to have a hard-fought game against New England. And unlike New England teams of before, I think they're a much more rounded team They corrected their defense. They shored up their goaltending, and they have an awful lot of firepower. So, personally, because even looking through, Riley O'Connor, Kyle Buchanan, Colton Watkinson, let alone Stephane LeBlanc, Kevin Crowley, and Sean Evans.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything.
Some firepower all over the place, and then you have your D guys, Derek Suttons, Brett Manny, Adam Bonbury, David Brock, Matt Spanger. You have all kinds of people who are going to be doing things, and your transition. Decent transition too. Now, if we have a problem and Bold isn't playing up to snuff, I think Doug Jamieson, with that extra seasoning for a year, I think he can step in.
Oh yeah, Jamieson can step in. I just don't. Just with their past history, being in there, only winning one time, 1 out of 5. Then they're 1-4 there. Yes, they'll be well rested, but I don't know, something about that building just kind of does something to them. And if Rochester jumps out to an early lead, it could be hard for them to come back. It really could. Travel wise, I mean, a 3-hour bus trip, I don't think is going to take a whole lot out of.
If it takes 6 hours to get there, though, it'll.
Oh yeah, well, that's why I'm thinking what they're going to do. They're going to wait till the morning, make sure the interstate is clear, and then they'll be good to go. Because
it's all leaving up to Mother Nature. So I'll take with the rest of the team that's sitting in there, just flipping over and turning on something else.
Yeah, but
walking over to the arena with their cross-country skis on.
Yeah, well, here's the thing you also have to think about now. Whether or not the players can get their flights changed or not, or if they already have them changed. We don't know what their flight schedule is. So you may run into that problem as well, where you don't have certain players able to make it because their flight was canceled. That's what you have to think about. So hopefully for New England, for whatever players are coming in, in there, if they're flying or whatever, they may want to look at another flight change, or for players, let's just say, for instance, Crowley and Brett Manny, they're coming here from Philly. If they can't get a flight change, and that flight that they were taking is going to land, say, during that storm, they may be better off leaving at, say, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and getting there by noontime. Just
I'll leave that to them to do the travel.
Driving up, you know what I mean? So that's that's what you got to look at, because it's not like Rochester is a hub for flights. It's not like an international, so to speak, airport like Philadelphia is, or Boston Logan Airport and things of that nature. So what we have
left is the biggest game, in my opinion, of the weekend.
Yes, and that is also the Twitter game of the week. And finally, you have a Twitter game of the week that is apropos to that name, game of the week. Somebody's O in this game will go. And that is Saskatchewan at Colorado. The Rush go to the Loud House. And that place lives up to its name. Both teams 3-0. Both teams top goaltenders. You're going to have Ryan Benesh against Mark Matthews, or against Ben McIntosh, Robert Church, however you want to look at it. I think it's going to be a close game.
Oh, I do too.
But I see Saskatchewan pulling this one out. I really do. They just have all cylinders going. From defense to offense, transition, goaltending. I don't see a flaw anywhere in there.
No, I've been saying that for weeks. When you're talking about this particular Saskatchewan team that is already pissed off after last year's finals, but you have Mark Matthews, who's not just the prolific goal scorer, because he's got 8 goals, 13 assists. He's got just as much Oilers fit in real nicely, 6 goals, 9 assists.
Who?
Ryan Keegan, we didn't even discuss him. Curtis Knight, we didn't even discuss him.
No.
Then you have Jeremy Thompson, who's been doing what he does, for his whole career. Between face-offs and transition. But then transitionally, you have Chris Corbeil, Jeff Cornwall, Adrian Sorchetti. It keeps going, doesn't it?
Yeah, but who was that name you mentioned?
Defense-wise, Brett Miskey's got 2 goals this year already. I still want Kyle Rubik's. I want the Rubik's Cube party.
Yes.
I want him to get a goal somewhere in here, and I'm sure he will sometime this year.
I don't care if it's an empty netter.
He's got to get that goal this year.
Yeah, but
needless to say, it comes from all angles, and the defense, as I've stated this week and other weeks, I feel is the best in the league, and it's the best that the league's seen in quite some time. And then even if they are able to get a shot, it's usually from outside, but if they do get inside, Evan Kirk is putting himself back to when he was goaltender of the year a couple of years ago. He's for real, because the saves he's been making have not all been easy ones. And, he's been the last line of defense consistently, and he's fit in very, very nicely in there.
Yeah, and I remember that year that he got goaltender of the year when he was with New England. He just played phenomenal, carried them into the playoffs, and he just, they just came so close that year.
And he just looks like he's at another level right now.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. Now, not to take anything away, yes, I am going with Saskatchewan, but I don't think this is a walk, and I don't think this is a lock. And if a few things go the other way, you're talking about Ryan Benesh, Jeremy Noble, Jacob Ruiz, Eli McLaughlin, Chris Wardell. It goes on. Joey Capito for Gazelle-ness. Zach Greer is just starting to get the rust off and moving forward. Transitionally, as well as Capito, you have Brad Self, who is also, no slouch in any of this.
Right. And they are playing at home.
Let's see if Stephen Keogh will be playing, because he was a scratch before. He'll help if he's in.
Yep. And
Dylan Ward's helped his own cause out with 3 assists this year.
Yeah. And they are playing at home, so that is...
Yeah, and it's going to be nuts and it's going to be packed.
Yeah.
So, the same advantage that Saskatchewan has when they're at home is now going the other way. And difficult place for a visiting team to come in. Now, coaching-wise, I give it to Saskatchewan. I still think that the Bill Belichick of lacrosse is sitting on the bench for Saskatchewan.
Give him a hoodie. Give him a hoodie with the sleeves cut off.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's all we need. That's all it's missing. And if you catch him in MSL, you're almost catching that anyways with the cap and the rest of it. So.
Yeah, like I said, Saskatchewan's got it from top to bottom and everywhere in between, and not, like you said, not taking anything away from Colorado. You're looking at Benesh, Keogh. They have it there too. Zach Greer, which would be kind of interesting because he's going up against his old team again. And Dylan Ward in the net too. It's just they have it as well, and that's why I said somebody's O is going this week, and for that to be the Twitter game of the week, it's so appropriate. It's
Yeah, if you don't have NLL TV, sit down and watch this thing because this is going to be a treat.
Yeah, and you know what? The Twitter feed for the Twitter games of the week have been a lot better than some of the feeds on the NLL. Last week's NLL game, Twitter game of the week, I think it was Buffalo Calgary. The Twitter feed was a lot better than the NLL TV feed.
I actually had a pretty good time with it. I haven't had that many problems this year with it.
Yeah.
I've been using through Chrome, Google Chrome, and
yeah.
Chromecasting also. I've had no problems. So
yeah,
knock on wood.
Yeah,
it's going to stay that way. But I've been pretty enthused with it. I know that some people have been having some trouble with it, but luckily over here I haven't.
Yeah, but you would think you hear, the Twitter feed, who knows how good that's going to be. Twitter feed is not that bad. Not that bad at all.
No, it's better than last year's for sure.
Yeah. So, for those that listen to the show that don't have the NLL TV package where you watch all the games, this will give you a really good reason as to why you should get the package with all the games. Watch this game. It's going to be, I think we're either going to see a defensive game or we're going to see a nice offensive game going on here. And the goals that we're going to see, they're not going to be ones that just slip by either. They're going to be some top-of-the-line goals. You know, they're going to have to be, you know, something on them. Some kind of, you know, over the shoulder, behind the back, something.
You're going to be treated to one heck of a good game in lacrosse.
Yeah, you're going to see goals where you would think that John Grant was still playing in the game. They're the type of goals that you're going to have to see this week in this game. But real quick, Gary, before we end the show, the standings real quick. Rochester's 2-1. New England is at 2-1. Then you have Toronto at 2-2. Buffalo 2-2. Georgia 1-3. This is where we say about these games being so vital right now for Toronto, Rochester, New England, and even Buffalo and Georgia when they play this week. In the West, both Colorado and Saskatchewan, both at 3-0. Calgary at 1-3, and the team with the other O, but it's in the wrong column, the Vancouver Stealth, have the goose egg at 0-4. So, you know, hopefully they find a way to win soon. Otherwise, they'll just be playing out the string. But you know, even Calgary at 1-3, they need to start doing something. Otherwise, it's just going to be a two-team race for the East, for the West. I mean, and then in the East, it's, you know, typical Eastern Division lacrosse. It's going to be a nail biter all the way to the very end of the season. So that will do it for this week. Again, the picks we have: Gary is going with Buffalo over Vancouver, Georgia over Calgary, Toronto over Rochester, then New England over Rochester. So he has Rochester losing both this weekend, and then the Rush over Colorado. I have the same picks. The only thing we differ in, Gary, is I think that Rochester will split this weekend. They'll lose in Toronto, and they will win when they come home to face the New England Black Wolves. So we have one game different this week. Although, you know, I could see New England pulling it off. I just, with their past record in there, I don't know. It's just kind of a little iffy there for me.
You got to let me get back in this one. You picked up another one on me last week with the Buffalo game.
Yes, I am now up by 3 games. So, what are you trying to tell me? You're starting to feel like the Vancouver South?
Well, I don't think I'm that bad yet. But
No. You actually got more wins.
And a little more scoring too.
A little more scoring, yes. Yeah, because I think let me see here. When I look at it, because I had it here. That's one thing I wanted to bring up. Yeah, I'm at 13-3, and you're at 10-6 so far out of the 16 games that we picked so far. So we'll see what happens. This week. Who knows? We could both be under 500 this week. Games we picked could be completely reversed, or you could pick up that crucial game before anything else happens.
Yeah.
So, again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Go to laxphilly.com. Go to the Lax Philly page on Facebook. As Gary said, everybody has their predictions down of who they think is going to win and as to why. Also, Kevin Neibauer's article on the scoring in the NLL, as well as we talked about in the beginning of the show, Gary. That is also up there. Go to inlacrossewetrust.com. We have a bunch of articles up there as well. We have the game previews that are going to be posted up there, the recaps, and a whole bunch of different things on there as well. For the people up in Buffalo and Rochester, please be safe. Okay, you're getting you're going to get hammered with snow starting tomorrow. I don't want to sound like a newscaster, but if you don't have to be out on the roads, don't stay inside. It's not worth it. It really isn't. So, if you're involved anywhere in that snow belt, we'll say, be careful, please, and tune in, watch some lacrosse, and be happy. I really don't know what to say. Again, Twitter game of the week is the Saskatchewan Rush at the Colorado Mammoth. That'll start at 9 p.m. Eastern. All the other games this week. Tomorrow night, 7:30, Rochester, Toronto. New England at Rochester on Saturday at 7:30. Vancouver at Buffalo at 7:30 as well. And Georgia, Calgary, 9 p.m. All Eastern times. It wouldn't surprise me if Rochester and the Buffalo game might get pushed to 8, depending on the weather, how bad the roads are, to let the fans and everybody get in more. So stay tuned to NLL.com and see if anything like that changes. So for Gary Group at Lax Philly, I'm Rocco Granado at InlandCrossFitTrust.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see everybody here again next week.